close your eyes and imagine a dinner table from 1955, soft lighting, laughter in the air, and a glistening gelatin mold gliding onto the table, served as proudly as any roast or cake. That shimmering dish was once the everyday magic of American homes, conjured by the iconic name Betty Crocker. But somewhere along the way, these recipes vanished, erased by shifting trends, newer cookbooks, and convenience food culture. What if I said those lost dishes are not gone forever? What if deep inside the original 1950 cookbook, the one households cradled for decades, lies a treasure trove of meals that once brought families together but now linger only in memory? Today, we are not just cooking. We are resurrecting a piece of culinary history. We are uncovering 10 forgotten Betty Crocker recipes that time tried to bury. Each one carries flavor, nostalgia, and a story waiting to be re-experienced. If you care about food, history, or the soul of an era, this journey will change the way you see cooking forever. Let us begin. They say tastes from the past can vanish, but every ingredient, every mold, every wiggling ring holds a secret. This first recipe is called Golden Blow Salad. In the mid-20th century, this shimmering orange Jell-O mold was more than a side dish. It was a statement. A symbol of post-war comfort, modern kitchens, and the golden glow of domestic pride. Golden Blow salad begins simply: a packet of orange gelatin dissolved in boiling water. Then crushed pineapple, its juice rescued and stretched with cold water, a hint of lemon for balance, and perhaps the most surprising twist, finely shredded carrots folded in before chilling. Some versions even suggested a pinch of salt, to contrast sweet with subtle savory. After a few hours in the fridge, that ordinary liquid becomes a crown of translucent orange, flecked with bits of golden pineapple and carrot, turning everyday ingredients into edible stained glass. Served in a molded ring, this salad was often the centerpiece of potlucks, family dinners, and holiday tables. It looked cheerful, modern, and a little magical, like a promise of togetherness. But Golden Blow salad is more than retro aesthetics. It tells the story of a generation that embraced convenience foods, gelatin, canned fruit, and reshaped them into something hopeful, optimistic, and beautifully communal. Today, as we whisk gelatin and pour pineapple into the mix, we are not only cooking. We are resurrecting a memory. A glow from the past. Because sometimes, the brightest flavors are the ones nearly forgotten. Some recipes are more than meals, they are symbols of aspiration, elegance, and the desire to impress. Chicken Divan Deluxe was exactly that in the 1950s, a dish that could turn an ordinary weeknight into a celebration and elevate family dinners into something memorable. It was a staple of Betty Crocker cookbooks and a reflection of the mid-century American kitchen, where convenience and creativity met in perfect harmony. The foundation of Chicken Divan Deluxe was simple yet deliberate. Tender cooked chicken, shredded or diced, formed the heart of the dish. Broccoli florets were blanched just enough to retain their bright green color and subtle crunch. The sauce, however, was what made this dish unforgettable, a creamy blend of condensed mushroom soup, mayonnaise, and a hint of lemon juice. Shredded cheddar cheese melted into the sauce, creating a luscious coating that clung to every piece of chicken and vegetable. Assembly was both art and ritual. Broccoli was arranged on the bottom of a casserole dish, followed by the chicken, and then drenched in the rich sauce. A topping of buttery breadcrumbs or crushed crackers was added for a golden, crispy finish. Into the oven it went, emerging bubbling, aromatic, and visually striking, a dish that was both comforting and sophisticated. Chicken Divan Deluxe was more than just a casserole. It represented an era when homemakers embraced modern conveniences without sacrificing pride in presentation. It was a centerpiece for holiday meals, potlucks, and Sunday dinners, carrying with it the optimism of post-war America and the ingenuity of mid-century kitchens. Recreating it today is a journey into history. Each creamy bite evokes warmth, nostalgia, and the sense that some flavors are timeless, waiting to be rediscovered. Some recipes tell a story about survival, comfort, and the clever use of everyday ingredients. Hearty hamburger hot dish is one of those dishes, a true emblem of 1950s American kitchens, where families sought warmth, nourishment, and convenience in every meal. Far from the quick frozen dinners of today, this hot dish was a labor of love, a one-pan solution that could feed hungry children and impress guests with minimal fuss. The base was simple: ground beef, browned until rich and savory, seasoned just enough to bring out its natural flavor. To this, diced onions, celery, and sometimes green pepper were added for depth. Betty Crocker's recipe often included canned soups, cream of mushroom or cream of celery, combined with milk to form a thick, luscious sauce. Some variations even added cooked rice or macaroni, transforming the dish into a filling, cohesive casserole. Once the mixture was in a baking dish, it was topped with a generous layer of grated cheddar or crushed buttery crackers. Into the oven it went, baking until bubbling and golden on top, releasing a comforting aroma that filled kitchens and drew families to the table. Hearty hamburger hot dish was more than a casserole. It represented a generation learning to stretch modest ingredients into meals that satisfied both stomach and soul. Every spoonful carried the essence of home, the warmth of family gatherings, and the ingenuity of mid-century American cooks. Recreating this dish today is not merely cooking. It is reconnecting with history, tasting the flavors that once defined American weeknight dinners, and realizing that simplicity can be the most luxurious form of comfort. The hearty hamburger hot dish is humble, hearty, and unforgettable, a culinary memory that deserves revival. Some dishes tell a story of practicality and comfort, and savory biscuit-topped tuna bake is a perfect example. In the 1950s, post-war America embraced convenience without sacrificing heart. Betty Crocker's recipe took simple, accessible ingredients, canned tuna, creamy soup, and buttery biscuits, and transformed them into a meal that was both filling and celebratory, suitable for weeknight dinners or small family gatherings. The foundation of the bake began with a creamy tuna mixture. Flaked canned tuna combined with condensed cream of mushroom soup, a touch of milk, and sautéed onions for subtle depth. Frozen peas or diced vegetables were often added to introduce color and nutrition, making the dish visually appealing as well as hearty. This mixture was then poured into a greased casserole dish, forming a comforting base that promised warmth and flavor in every spoonful. The topping elevated the dish to something truly special. Pre-made or homemade biscuit dough was carefully dolloped to top the tuna mixture, creating soft, golden peaks that baked to perfection. As the casserole cooked, the biscuits puffed up, turning golden brown, while the tuna mixture bubbled underneath, releasing savory aromas that filled the kitchen and called everyone to the table. Savory biscuit-topped tuna bake represented more than a meal. It captured the ingenuity of mid-century home cooks who transformed pantry staples into comforting, complete dinners. Every bite conveyed warmth, nostalgia, and the satisfaction of a home-cooked meal. Recreating this recipe today allows us to taste the flavors of a simpler era, honoring the care, creativity, and resourcefulness of 1950s kitchens. This tuna bake is not just dinner, it is a culinary memory, reminding us that convenience and love can coexist beautifully. In the 1950s, party foods were more than just snacks. They were miniature works of art, designed to delight, surprise, and bring people together. Old-fashioned party potato puffs perfectly embody this philosophy. Found in Betty Crocker's mid-century cookbooks, this recipe transformed humble mashed potatoes into bite-sized golden morsels that were as fun to serve as they were to eat. The base was simple but clever. Leftover mashed potatoes or freshly prepared spuds were combined with butter, a touch of milk, and a hint of salt to create a creamy, pliable mixture. Some variations added shredded cheese or chopped herbs to infuse extra flavor. Once seasoned, small portions were shaped into neat, bite-sized puffs easy for guests to pick up and impossible to resist. The magic happened in the oven. Lightly brushed with butter or an egg wash, the potato puffs baked until golden brown, developing a crisp exterior while remaining soft and fluffy inside. The aroma of roasting butter and potatoes would fill the kitchen, signaling that a special treat was ready. Old-fashioned party potato puffs were a reflection of mid-century ingenuity, taking simple ingredients and transforming them into elegant, shareable snacks. They appeared on holiday trays, potluck tables, and casual gatherings, often garnished with parsley or paprika to enhance their presentation. Recreating them today is more than baking, it is stepping back into a time when presentation, creativity, and care mattered as much as flavor. Every golden puff tells a story of community, comfort, and nostalgia, proving that even the simplest ingredients can leave a lasting impression. Old-fashioned party potato puffs are a testament to the playful elegance of forgotten 1950s party cuisine. Some recipes are like edible time capsules, carrying the flavors and memories of decades past. Cherry chip ribbon loaf is one of those treasures, a forgotten Betty Crocker creation that once brightened breakfast tables, afternoon teas, and holiday gatherings in the 1950s. It combined the cheerful sweetness of maraschino cherries with the indulgence of chocolate chips, layered artfully in a moist, tender loaf that was as beautiful as it was delicious. The magic of the cherry chip ribbon loaf began with a classic quick bread batter, enriched with butter, eggs, and a touch of vanilla. Its signature feature was the ribboning technique, alternating layers of batter with chopped cherries and chocolate chips, creating a striped effect that revealed itself with each slice. This method turned a simple loaf into a visually striking centerpiece, showcasing the mid-century dedication to presentation and care. Once baked, the loaf developed a golden crust with a soft, fragrant interior, the cherries offering bursts of tart sweetness and the chocolate chips adding a creamy contrast. Some versions included a light glaze or sprinkling of sugar on top, enhancing its appeal and making it a treat for both eyes and palate. Cherry chip ribbon loaf reflected the optimism and creativity of post-war home cooks who embraced convenience without sacrificing artistry. It was a way to take ordinary ingredients and transform them into something special, a dish that could impress guests while comforting family members. Recreating it today is not just baking, it is reviving a piece of culinary history. Each slice carries the warmth, nostalgia, and sweetness of a bygone era, reminding us that sometimes the simplest loaves hold the richest stories. The cherry chip ribbon loaf deserves a place back on our tables, a testament to flavor, imagination, and mid-century charm. Some recipes are bold statements, combining comfort, creativity, and a touch of showmanship. Vintage cheddar stuffed meatloaf roll is exactly that, a mid-century marvel from Betty Crocker's kitchen that elevated the humble meatloaf into a centerpiece worthy of any family dinner. In an era when convenience foods and canned ingredients were gaining popularity, this recipe showed how imagination could transform simple pantry staples into a memorable meal. The base of the roll was a classic meatloaf mixture, ground beef seasoned with onions, breadcrumbs, milk, and a blend of spices. The twist and the magic came in the center. Strips of sharp cheddar cheese were layered across the flattened meat mixture, then carefully rolled into a tight log, encasing the cheese within. This created a dramatic effect, a melting, gooey core hidden inside the savory exterior. Once assembled, the meatloaf roll was placed in a greased baking pan, brushed with a ketchup or tomato-based glaze, and baked until golden brown. The aroma of roasting beef and cheese filled kitchens, signaling a dinner that was as comforting as it was impressive. Vintage cheddar stuffed meatloaf roll was more than a recipe, it was a reflection of post-war ingenuity in home cooking. It allowed homemakers to showcase both practicality and flair, turning a simple protein into a feast that satisfied family and guests alike. Recreating it today is a journey into the 1950s kitchen. Each slice reveals the gooey cheese ribbon at its heart, evoking nostalgia, warmth, and the care that went into home-cooked meals. The vintage cheddar stuffed meatloaf roll is a reminder that even the simplest ingredients, when combined with creativity, can become unforgettable culinary history. Some desserts are delicate statements of flavor, texture, and elegance, and frosted lime chiffon squares perfectly embody this mid-century charm. Found in Betty Crocker cookbooks, this dessert was a refreshing twist on the era's popular chiffon cakes, combining light, airy sponge with a zesty lime flavor and a smooth, sweet frosting. It was the kind of dessert that could transform a simple afternoon tea or holiday gathering into a moment of sophistication and delight. The base of the frosted lime chiffon squares was a chiffon-style batter, beaten to airy perfection using oil, eggs, sugar, and a hint of lime zest. The secret to its lightness was folding whipped egg whites carefully into the batter, creating a sponge that was both fluffy and tender. Once baked, the cake was cut into squares, each showcasing the perfect balance of texture, soft, moist, and slightly springy. The frosting elevated the dessert further. A simple mixture of powdered sugar, lime juice, and a touch of butter or cream cheese created a glossy, tangy topping that contrasted beautifully with the light sponge. Some versions included a sprinkle of lime zest or finely chopped candied peel to enhance both flavor and visual appeal. Frosted lime chiffon squares reflected the optimism of the 1950s kitchen, where convenience met creativity and presentation mattered as much as taste. It was a dessert designed to impress guests and delight family members, offering a subtle, refreshing flavor in every bite. Recreating it today is like stepping into a mid-century celebration. Each square carries nostalgia, elegance, and the care that defined home baking of the era. Frosted lime chiffon squares are more than dessert, they are a connection to a time when every bite told a story of flavor, finesse, and forgotten culinary artistry. Some desserts are engineered for indulgence, nostalgia, and sheer visual delight, and the 1950s caramel pecan icebox cake embodies all three. This forgotten Betty Crocker creation was a staple of mid-century American kitchens, designed to wow guests with minimal effort while offering layers of flavor and texture. It was not merely a dessert, it was a statement of elegance, sweetness, and creativity in an era when convenience and presentation were equally valued. The magic began with a base of crisp graham crackers, layered in a shallow dish to provide structure and crunch. Between these layers, a luscious caramel-flavored custard or pudding was spread generously, offering a creamy contrast to the firm crackers. Chopped pecans were sprinkled between layers, adding both flavor and a subtle crunch that elevated the dessert beyond simple icebox cakes. Some versions even included a touch of whipped cream or marshmallow fluff to enhance richness and mouthfeel. Once assembled, the icebox cake was chilled for several hours, allowing the layers to meld, the graham crackers to soften slightly, and the flavors to harmonize. The result was a dessert that was visually striking and texturally complex, offering crisp, creamy, nutty, and caramelized notes in every bite. The 1950s caramel pecan icebox cake represented the ingenuity of post-war homemakers who embraced convenience foods like pudding mixes and graham crackers but transformed them into something luxurious and celebratory. Recreating it today is not merely dessert preparation. It is a journey into the 1950s kitchen, a taste of history that combines warmth, indulgence, and nostalgia. Every forkful carries the essence of an era that cherished creativity, flavor, and the joy of sharing sweet moments with family and friends. This icebox cake is a hidden gem, waiting to reclaim its place on our tables. Some desserts were designed to delight, surprise, and bring a sense of theater to the table. Retro surprise pudding parfaits were one such creation, a forgotten gem from mid-century Betty Crocker cookbooks. They transformed everyday pantry ingredients into layered wonders, offering flavor, texture, and visual appeal in a single glass. The foundation of these parfaits was a creamy pudding, chocolate, vanilla, or butterscotch, prepared from scratch or with a convenient boxed mix. Cubes of sponge cake or ladyfingers were layered with the pudding, creating pockets of softness and structure. To add color and flavor contrast, canned fruits such as peaches, cherries, or pineapple chunks were inserted between layers, surprising diners with bursts of sweetness in every bite. The piece de resistance was the whipped topping. Freshly whipped cream or a stabilized canned variety crowned each parfait, dusted with a sprinkle of nutmeg, cocoa, or crushed nuts for both aroma and elegance. Served in clear glasses, the layers were visible, turning a simple dessert into a miniature showcase of color, texture, and creativity. Retro surprise pudding parfaits were more than dessert, they were a reflection of the 1950s kitchen philosophy. Convenience, imagination, and presentation could coexist beautifully. Every spoonful carried nostalgia, the optimism of mid-century homemakers, and the joy of family gatherings. Recreating these parfaits today is like stepping into a 1950s celebration. They remind us that desserts were not just for taste but for experience, bringing together creativity, flavor, and memories. Retro surprise pudding parfaits are a hidden treasure, ready to surprise and delight modern tables just as they did decades ago.